So hello and welcome to this demo of the ADDAC System T-Networks. Let's check out what's to come before we get into it. Now the T-Network is based on this twin T-bridge vintage primitive percussion circuit. It's much like pinging a near oscillating, highly resonant filter, and this kind of T-Network based percussion is most commonly found or most commonly known as being the 808 kick drum circuit. But these four channels are more than just simple 808 generators. 6 HP, 4 channels, 4 trigger ins. These inputs will convert anything to triggers, so we use this as a destructive, interesting audio filter, very glottal, throat-like, nasal tract kind of tone to it with a square wave later in the video. But 4 trigger ins, 4 trigger outs. We have a pitch, a switch for low, medium and high. Control. 4 times over, a mix out with a mix level, super simple. Timing index on screen if you want to skip to a very specific part of the video. Thanks to ADDAC System for sponsoring this video, message about that in the description. Let's dive in. So here's a patch to demo the sound of the T-Networks. All 4 of them are playing, the mix out is what's feeding the scope, but they're all going out into a mixer. The levels are fairly flat, just a little bit of panning with these 2 sounds. Slightly higher one to the left, slightly lower one to the right. This channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, and 4. And we'll just look at this top channel, go through the low, medium, high frequency ranges and the tuning. Now, the medium range is really where the kind of goodness happens. This is really wide ranging from near enough sub-audio kicks notice the length changes with the tuning as well. Going over to the low mode, it's actually a little higher and it's a much more restricted frequency range. Up to high, very restricted range as well. Good for fine tuning those high clicks. That's the sound of T-Networks. Let's get into processing this, running some audio through as destructive filters, and just creative use and processing over these drum sounds. So here's a patch where the T-Networks is really the spice and interest over a beat. Now I'm muting everything out on my mixer. Here's some other drum modules. 909 style kick through some compression and drive, and some 808 like hi-hats. Now the top channel on the T-Networks is going through some intense kind of lo-fi compression, and I've EQ'd out some of the low end so that it doesn't really get in the way of the kick. Channel 2 comes through some distortion and going through that and then into some effects over the beat. Channel 3 through some delay. And channel 4 through some more delay. So here's all of the T-Network sounds. Panned out in stereo, processed, my effects chain turned back on. And this is all that spice and character. Add the 808 hats and the 909 kick in the background. And as simple as T-Networks is providing a really nice basic set of sound sources to kind of spice up everything else in this patch. So the input to each channel on the T networks has a trigger converter, so you can throw audio, gates, whatever you want in there, and it will trigger the sound. So here I've zoomed in, and the green trace on the top of data is a square wave from an oscillator. Deep, rich square wave. That's triggering this at audio rates, so we can use the T networks because of the circuit that makes the drum sounds like a very destructive filter. And you'll see what I mean. The blue trace is the output. If I just get this up a bit higher, although the scope is set to a much faster time, we can see for each square wave, this is effectively triggering the drum sound. That's what it looked like when this was moving at slower rates for beats. So the low mode, very throaty, resonant sound, medium frequency. Great glottal, nasal, throat-like sounds. Higher range. Like a little thin bandpass with a resonant peak kind of moving around. Now, let's get a sequence into this oscillator. So here's a 4-part drum beat. Well, full patch really, there's more than just drums going on. There's entirely the T networks. Well, not entirely, but the 4 sound sources are entirely the 4 outputs of the T networks. Now, muting everything, here's the kick. Channel 1. This just has a touch of EQ, no processing. Now the snare is this output with some noise in a mixer going through a VCA. Here's this on its own. Mixing some noise. Process that through a VCA, nice envelope to the VCA, bit of EQ on the mixer. We have a good snare. Quite nice through this weird reverb as well. Now, this is a strange one, and of course the furthest away from the T network sound, but is this T network? Quite like it there actually, some nice dissonant tuning going on. This is going into a bandpass filter with a bit of resonance, and there's an audio rate oscillator that is being sequenced, controlling the cutoff of that filter. So really, if I take that audio rate modulation off, and then this 4th one comes through some reverb, before going into a dual VCA where I have an accent pattern and a normal envelope for a more dynamic pattern. Turning that reverb off. We can hear there's a little bit of dynamic to it. It's not a massive effect. Adding that reverb, which is huge and cavernous. But because it's pre-VCA, chopping that in and out. And again, these sounds through that reverb. With some modules, some imagination, some patching, T networks is just the base of more complex sound sources. Now, there's no CV or anything over the T networks, but it doesn't stop us making nice little kind of house bass line and soft percussive tonal lines out of it. Now, this might sound like some kind of CV sequence. It's not at all. It's just 4 different gate patterns and 4 notes tuned up to create the pattern itself. Bit of EQ on the channel for that sound, just to take out that kind of click. I wanted to just soften it down, and through some delay against this super simple beat, kick clap hi-hat, adding in the mix output from the T network, turned up way louder than you'd have it in a mix, but just making it super obvious for the demo. Bit of delay, Nice melodic tonal work out of the 4 channels of T-Networks. So if you listen carefully, there's a hint of a 4-note chord in there, killing the reverb and bringing up the sound of each one of these T-Network outputs. Here's a chord sound, going through them one by one. Top channel, channel 2 mixed in, 3rd one, and 4th one. These are panned around in stereo. Now for this sound, these are being sent out of my mixer into Galileo Moons. This is just a simple envelope and VCA. You can see the LED. It's got a little bit of attack just to take this punch, this percussion, this really nice click that makes these T-Network sounds cut through the mix quite well. But I want rid of that here. This VCA output feeds a reverb, an interesting small little 4-voice chordal generator that creates some nice textures with some additional patching. Thanks for checking out this video on the T-Networks from ADDAC System. Be sure to check out some of the other ADDAC System videos linked in the description below. There's more to come on their new modules too. Cheers again to ADDAC for sponsoring this video. Have a nice day, support me on Patreon, hit like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Cheers for watching. Bye.